Delighted to welcome back on the show. It's been a while. Last time I saw this man, it was over in Brooklyn at UFC 223, and obviously what occurred a few minutes literally after I spoke to this man. Returning guest to the show, as always, Mr. Paul Felder. Unfortunate circumstances I just mentioned there in Brooklyn at UFC 223. Paul, first of all, my buddy, how are you? Good to have you back on the show.
I'm good, man. Just a few weeks in the training camp here at Rufus Sport, and yeah, the 223 was madness. I've never had anything like that happen in my career. I've had opponents switch and things like that, but never made weight, been that close to a fight, and then just madness breaks loose, and I don't end up fighting. So strange circumstances there in Brooklyn.
Talk to me about the emotions, Paul, because you're pretty close to getting a world title fight as well. Just the roller coaster. First of all, you didn't know what was happening with your fight. Then you were in the running for a world title fight. The emotions there must have just absolutely fried your head, my friend.
It was crazy. We were sitting in the hotel room, and I started hearing about Max. Got pulled off the card. They need a replacement, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'll get my name put into the hat. But then my teammate Anthony is obviously in negotiations. So I'm like, okay, well, he's going to have that fight, but I'm still fighting. I'm at least going to fight Al. This is going to happen. Then I hear negotiations aren't going so great. I start hitting up Duke, and we're talking. I'm like, I asked him, I said, is it okay if I throw my name out there? And as far as I knew, man, according to my manager and what he had said, the UFC said, we were wanted for that fight. And then, some problems with my rankings, according to the New York Commission, and some shady stuff happened there, and I think it was just ridiculous that if that's the reason I didn't get that fight, it's nonsense. But yeah, I was at one point thought I had that fight. Was sitting in my hotel room like shaking, like, oh shit, I go from having a really tough fight now to possibly fighting, Khabib for the UFC belt. It was all the while trying to rehydrate.
Yeah, and I know you had a lot of family and stuff. I bumped into you afterwards, and you're obviously very despondent. You're with your teammate Craig, Duke. You were almost in tears at one point when I met you on the road. The hood up, you look drawn. You're obviously cutting a lot of weight. That was probably, for me, the real eye opener of the whole situation. Seeing guys like you when you've worked so hard to get to that point. And I know with your weight cut, it's a process. You can't just take a fight in 2 weeks' notice. It's a grad put down for you. Was that really the most hurtful thing that I know your mom was supposed to go to a fight for the first time as well. I think you'd 30, 40 friends coming into town. Is that the real poignant, disgusting moment about this whole situation when it affects a guy like you so deeply like that?
Yeah, my mom, I got her tickets. She hadn't been to one of my fights since back when I won the belt for CFFC back in the day. And the last time she was there, my dad was still alive. They were both there together. So it was going to be this big thing that she finally wanted to come and see me. She has not seen me fight live in the UFC.
Yeah.
Obviously my brother and all his friends and just everybody was there and had hotel rooms, had booked tickets. Everybody spent a lot of money to come and support me, as they always do. And being that it was closer to home, only a couple hours away from Philly, I had more than usual there, and it was a big fight. I was supposed to open up the pay-per-view. I was on a 3-fight win streak, so yeah, it was just to go through that whole process of cutting that weight, man. If it happens a few days beforehand, it sucks, but at least I didn't have to, kill myself to cut all that water and do all that crap. But I mean, the UFC, they took care of everybody that was supposed to fight, but it's not what it's about. It's not about getting a little bit of money. It's about moving up the ranks and getting closer, or possibly having, a title fight. It all just seemed like it was meant to be. The Eagles had won the Super Bowl. They were underdogs. Here I am about to possibly challenge Khabib, on a day's notice. It just seemed right, like a storybook situation, and then a real storybook nightmare situation where I don't even fight.
What is the feeling towards Conor McGregor now? Because obviously his actions resulted in so many fights, falling off the card.
look, I get wanting to have your friend and your teammate and your boys back. I get that, but there comes a point where, okay, you find that guy, or you get him on his own, or you beat his ass. You don't throw shit through bus windows where you could have done more than just cut Mike Chiesta's face. You could have hit Rose Namajunas in the face. You could have hurt women on that bus, or innocent managers and people who have nothing to do with the fight game, had nothing to do with what had happened to you. It's just reckless, stupid shit. I'm all about, confronting somebody, or guess what? Tell Dana White, all right, I want that fight. You'll get in a heartbeat, Connor. You're the biggest superstar in MMA. You could have gotten that fight, no problem. You don't have to throw dollies through a window, you know. So yeah, it just pissed me off, and I just started really starting to rally behind him a little bit again. I watched his documentary again on Netflix, and I was like, all right, man, this guy came from nothing, really worked his ass off to get where he's at, and then he goes and does that, and I lost a lot of respect for him.
That's a severe MMA production from Graham watched, but yeah, you lose respect for a guy like that. I spoke to Duke, your coach, just literally 30 minutes ago, 40 minutes ago. And Duke said he's seen something in you and Anthony Pettis since the whole incident. You've had a friendship come from that. You've become very, very close. But he said even more, he believes that this has made you a stronger fighter because of this whole incident, and stronger upstairs, stronger mentally. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I think I realized that with just a few changes in momentum, you could be fighting for the belt. You could be fighting the best guys in the world. And then the following week, I'm ranked, and people are, after all that BS went down, they finally recognized that, I'm a 3-fight win streak, 3 knockouts in a row. And, I've been on win streaks in the UFC before. I think it's time to recognize that I belong at the top of this division. And, on any given night, I could beat any of these guys. On any given night, I could have knocked out Khabib, I could have knocked out Al. I'm not saying that it's going to happen every single time, but I think I have the abilities to beat the top 5 in this division. And almost getting that fight kind of was like, oh shit, this could happen. It's not just, a dream or fantasizing about that stuff. It's like I'm in it. I've put myself in a situation where a few more fights, and I could realistically be challenging for that belt.
So it's giving you, maybe hunger, a little bit more hunger.
Yeah.
Is that an accurate word to use?
Yeah, I would say so, especially since I didn't get to fight, and that really made me go back home. And when I went back home, normally I take a couple weeks where I might be training a little bit, but I'm hanging out with family. I'm really kind of letting myself go a little bit. It didn't really happen this camp. I kind of felt like something was missing. I never had that completion. I didn't get to have a fight, win, lose, or draw. At least after a fight, no matter what the result, you kind of feel satisfied that you got in there and competed. And I haven't gotten to do that. Now I got to wait until July 14th. So I'm ready for that. I'm ready for the spotlight. It's the co-main event, me and Vick, and the next one's going to be a main event.
Yeah, has that annoyed you potentially that it isn't main event? I know it's something you wanted to do. We spoke about it quite a bit. I thought possibly you could have headlined this card. There's a newcomer in the main event as well, which I found a little bit strange. Does that piss you off?
I mean, at first it kind of bummed me out. I wouldn't say it necessarily pissed me off. I mean, I know there's reasons behind what they do, and it's not just just because I asked for it. I know it doesn't always work out that way, but a co-main event, it's still a step up. I've been on the main card before. I was supposed to open the pay-per-view, so it's still a move up in the right direction. And I feel like if I get this win and move up in the rankings, then I could really call out one of these guys that have a much bigger name in the division, and that could potentially be either a main event or a big fight on a pay-per-view card later this year. So we'll see.
Just before we talk about, obviously, the James Vick fight coming up that you've mentioned there, your co-main event on July 14th in Boise in Idaho. I want to ask you about your analyst role with Fox Sports. What's the situation there? Obviously, there's a new TV deal that it's going to be ESPN after Christmas. Have you been informed? Like, are they going to keep you guys on, or what's the situation there with your contract with Fox Sports?
I don't really know. I still got to inquire about that and talk to the producers and things like that. I mean, I know I'm going to be doing some work for the Contender Series after my fight, and possibly some desk work and hopefully some more shows, but that's still under the old contract. I don't know what's going to happen come 2019. I'm going to have to ask, but I have a feeling that we're still going to have our jobs. I don't think they're going to bring in random new broadcast people that don't necessarily know the sport. There might be one or two new additions here or there, and maybe anchors or host type positions. But as far as the color commentators and the fighters and me, Dominic, Jimmy, DC, I feel they're gonna still keep us on because we know what we're talking about. We know this sport. That would be like the NFL bringing in random people that have nothing to do with that sport or know anything about it to talk about it. It would just be silly.
I think they need an Irish voice on the desk as well soon.
There you go.
All right. Listen to me, James Vick, as we mentioned, July 14th. I think this has been in the works now, it's fair to say, Paul, for quite some time. We've talked about the permutations, and we all sort of felt there was an inkling this was going to happen at some stage. Do you feel as though this fight will gain you more recognition maybe in the division than it would have been against Ally Quinta? Is this maybe a bigger fight? How do you feel about that in context?
I don't know if it's a bigger fight. I feel like it'll get me a lot more respect from the people that know the sport really well, though, because James Vick has been active. He's been on a tear. He's been finishing really good guys. Whereas Al might have a bigger name and a reputation, but he was kind of,
Well, he fought 30 seconds.
He disappeared. Yeah, he disappeared for a long time and um, wasn't active. So I think as far as challenges go, this is a bigger challenge. I mean, James Vick's 6'3". He's a tall guy. He's hard to figure out. He's got good submissions and good boxing. So I think it's definitely a harder puzzle to solve than Al was. Not taking anything away from Al. He's tough as shit. But James is active. He really believes he's going to be the champion someday. And maybe he will, but not yet.
How do you, obviously, Joe's a good friend of the show here as well. Joe fought James a couple of fights back. He's coming off a win, obviously, against Ronaldo, a guy you've also fought as well. How do you prepare for a guy like this? I'm always puzzled. Like, he's a big string, man. He's 6'4". I don't know how he gets to 155. It's just a bit of a nightmare. How do you get guys to really sort of do anything? Because he's what, 6'4" or 5? It's crazy.
He's huge. But that also, you can look at it like that, right? And that's how it was in the beginning. I was really looking at
dead, yeah.
Like, what am I going to do? This guy. I mean, I'm a taller guy for the division at 5'11". This guy towers over me. And Duke really took that out of my mind. He fought at heavyweight. Duke fought a lot of guys that were a lot taller than him. He's got a lot of things up his sleeve for tall guys and setting things up. James tends to actually fight shorter than he is. He hunches down to kind of your level too, which is one of the things that helps us. And tall guys have long legs and skinnier legs. And there's one thing I know I'm good at it. It's attacking low, but that's not all we're doing. So if he sees this, trust me, James, don't just be expecting the usual Felder and the leg kicks and things like that. But yeah, we've got a lot of guys coming in. We've brought in kickboxers from other gyms in the area in Wisconsin to come in and give me looks. And Brendan Allen, who's a middleweight, he's I think 6'2", but he's got about 3 inches reach advantage on James. He's actually got really long arms. So I kind of drill and work with him, and I'll be going to spar him in about 30 minutes. So it's tough. It sucks because I got to fight a lot of guys that are heavier than me because there's not many lightweights that are 6'3", 6'4". So I've had to spar with a lot of bigger welterweights and middleweights, which is only going to make me stronger and build my gas tank because I'm trying to get 210-pound guys off of me as opposed to somebody that's maybe 180.
It's something we mentioned in Brooklyn. We did obviously our chat in Brooklyn when just before, literally 5 minutes before Dollygate went down. We talked about your elbows, and maybe people who haven't seen that interview, I want to bring it back up at the show, the underutilization in mixed martial arts of elbows. It's something, I look at the UFC and I see so few guys doing it. Obviously, your last 3 fights, you've been fantastic. The fight in Canada where you flashed the elbow against Ricci.
Yeah.
Is it something that you think you're a level above everyone else in that lightweight division in terms of using your elbows?
Yeah, I just think I don't know what it is. When I see a lot of these fights, I see guys in the clinch, and it's just I think so many guys want to. I'm not saying this in a bad way. I think they're well rounded enough where they're looking for takedowns when they're in that close, or they're looking for knees, and they forget that right there they can just be popping elbows. So I mean, I think I am a little bit above most of the guys, and that I look for that. I think about that. That's one of those. It's a dirty move, man. It's a violent thing to think about, and it feels even nasty when you hit somebody with your elbow. It's bone on bone. It's a strange thing, and you got to be a little crazy to do it. And when I get in there, I'm looking to hurt you and get out of there. I'm not looking to dirty box if I can elbow you in the face.
I sense a very pissed off Paul Felder. The last, he's just, even off air here. You just have a more sort of nastier tone than I've ever seen from you. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think maybe it's just, I woke up early and ran this morning and got to go sparring day. You know what I mean?
No, but
So maybe
over the last few weeks and months, maybe since.
Yeah, it sucks, man. I went home, and I'm telling you, the whole time I was home, in between the last training camp and this, it's just like, oh, I didn't fight. I kind of had a fight, just the rug pulled out from under me. I felt a little lost. I've never had that happen. I've never been that close to a fight and then not gotten the satisfaction of even, like I said, no matter what the outcome, even if I'd lost to Al, at least I know where I stand. I know what I need to do next. I know where I am in the rankings. I know where I am. I got people giving me shit for getting ranked and I didn't fight. And, so I'm just ready to get out there and.
Hear people giving you shit. You
Bro,
in the rank should have been in the rankings already, in my opinion.
I agree. I know. And most people defended me on that. I'm saying, there's always going to be, a hater out there that's going to give you shit. But, yeah, so I think I just got a little chip on my shoulder about the last fight in Brooklyn not happening. And, but I'm ready. I'm excited. I've got a good spot on a smaller card, which is what I wanted. It's not the main event, but it's right there. I'll be getting a lot of attention. I'm still going to have a few friends that are going to fly out to good old Boise, Idaho.
That crazy brother of yours, yeah?
Oh, of course, Tommy's going to be there. Yeah, for sure.
The crazy Philly crew.
We'll find. Well, I'll probably at least have 5 to 8 people that'll show up. And I feel like I'll just have fans in general there. You know what I mean? I feel like I've gotten to the point where I think people will be, they know my style. They know what I bring to the table. So I think people will be excited to see me regardless of where I was in the card. But it's, it's pretty cool to know that, co-main event against a number 11 guy. This is it. It's time to move up, man. It's time to make that run. That's what this year is all about. I got a little setback, but I've had setbacks in my life before. I've had, to overcome some issues, and this is good. That's what brings the best out of me.
Definitely. Did you sort out some decent walk-in music?
Still figuring that out, you son of a bitch. I know you want me to come out to some U2, but
I think Duke was saying it as well, man. I'm telling you.
Was he? Yeah. I know he wants me to go back to either something that I like, my old school, just what I used to walk out to. I know he didn't like when I came out to Imagine Dragons. He even said to me, he's like, you got the win, but it was Harry there for a second in the first round. And he's like, maybe we go back to your old song. So I think I will. I think I'll either go back to my old song or something, something very Irish Dragon-esque.
All right, just one more for you. CM Punk this weekend obviously returns after a 2-year hiatus. Teammate of yours there in Rufus Sport. I asked Duke this earlier. What should the fans expect to see from CM Punk on his return to the Octagon after 2 years off?
I think you'll see a more well-rounded fighter. He's really been putting in the work. He's been working with the team for the entire time since his last fight, and his skill level has definitely gotten better. You know, he really got thrown into that quick.
Big time.
You know, and he's just been thrown into MMA quick in general. The guy's crazy. He wanted to go for the biggest show around off the bat, and you got to respect him for that. But I think he's looking good. He's sharp. He's lean. His weight's good right now. He's been putting in a lot of work. Hopefully, he just goes out there and has fun. And hopefully, he's not overthinking wins, losses. I mean, you know, at this point in his career, he should just go out there and fucking embrace it.
Yeah,
Just like he did back when he was doing pro wrestling. Just shine out there, man. Put on a show.
definitely. July 14th, it goes down. Paul Felder versus James Vick. I'm sure we'll speak to you again before that fight. Always a pleasure to have you on the show, Mr. Felder. Do appreciate the time.
Oh, man, always fun. Thanks for having me on.
Nice one.